Well, hello there, everyone. How are you doing on this fabulous Monday? It's Monday, November the 28th, of the year 2022. That means November is coming to an end. Isn't that outstanding? Yes, it is. Time keeps passing. And I want to talk about your financial health today. Okay, that's very important. But before I get started, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. Nothing like that. I'm just Masky, a guy who shares stories, experiences, perspectives, etc., etc., etc. So anyway, your financial health. I've mentioned a lot of this stuff before, but today's going to be a little bit different. I mentioned some of the different stuff before too, but it's going to be just different, okay? Stick around to the end. Make sure you click the like button, if the thumbs up if you like it. Make sure to comment. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. You'll find out a lot of information about financial stuff, investing in a variety of topics, and other stuff. It's all important. Everything I talk about is important in some fashion, at least to me. Maybe it's important to you. So anyway, your financial health. We've discussed investing in stocks, real estate, crypto, mineral rights, and oil drilling. I've mentioned art and wine investing also, lumber, farmland, etc., etc., etc. So along with your financial health, along with a good credit score, along with budgeting and being frugal and saving money for a down payment on a rental property, becoming accredited, along with all that, what's just as important is your health, your physical body, your mind. I've talked about mindset before. You need to have the proper mindset to be a successful investor. I've talked a little bit about your actual health before. I've told stories about myself. And that's kind of what I want to talk a little bit on this morning. I've stressed the importance that everyone, by the time they're age 45, in my humble opinion, should probably, if not before, get a colonoscopy. How old are you right now? How far away is age 45? That's the recommendation from the folks in charge of that department in health because of colon cancer. Trey Mancini on the Baltimore Orioles, he won the World Series ring with the Houston Astros. He got traded this past summer. Great guy. He was 28 years old when he got colon cancer. Had a year off from baseball, but he came back. Chadwick Boseman, Panther, he got colon cancer and died, 42 years of age. There's been a lot of people that die from colon cancer. There's been a lot of people that get colon cancer, all right? A colonoscopy can screen you early enough that if you have polyps, they can snip those polyps off. All polyps don't become cancer, but no cancer in your colon becomes cancer without being a polyp first. So if they snip them off, that means you won't get cancer, at least in that spot, shall we say. So anyway, I had my first colonoscopy about age 50. I had my second one earlier this year around age 55. Both times they snipped out polyps. 5, 6, 7 polyps altogether, I forget. And every time they think to get them all, but they grow back. They grow slowly. So you snip them out. They may take 20 years to become cancer, 10 years. I don't know how long it takes. So if you get them snipped, you should be okay. I also had an endoscopy because I was having some issues. And in my humble opinion, if you've ever experienced heartburn in your life, and most of us have, especially if you've experienced it more than just one time, that's your diet. More than likely, it could be genetic too. You can't change your genetics, but your diet. Think about at some point getting an endoscopy. It's putting the camera down that way. Colonoscopy, put it up. Endoscopy puts it down. There's just a small section in the middle they don't reach, okay? But it's a very small section. So if you get the bottom covered and you get the top covered, you're doing pretty good. When they did my endoscopy, they found out I had inflammation on my esophagus. That could potentially lead to esophageal cancer, okay? Now that I know that, I can take preventive measures to hopefully never experience that. They also found some polyps in my stomach. They snipped them out. That's not as common. I don't think polyps in your stomach will as frequently become cancer, but it's still possible. I don't want stomach cancer either. They snipped them out. But that doesn't mean we'll never get cancer, but they minimize the possibility of me getting it. Doesn't eliminate it, it minimizes it, okay? Other tests I've become familiar with in recent years, because I'm older, is, I'm going to get this wrong, the H1AC, the HCA1, HCA1 I think. That test, I was getting annual physicals all 20 years I was a cop. I don't know exactly what they tested for, but I was always okay. Okay. The H1AC, HCA1, whatever it's called, that's a standard blood test. Always tests glucose. Glucose is a sugar in your body, blood. If you look it up, diabetes is rampant in this country. Children are getting diabetes. Young adults are getting diabetes. If they don't have diabetes, they're getting pre-diabetic. Because look at what we eat, all of us. Look at the sugar content on everything. Look at a bottle of soda, Red Bull. Look at just food in general, frozen food, prepared food. Ketchup, they add sugar to ketchup. They add sugar to everything. And if you keep eating it, and if along the way you eat ice cream and donuts and cookies and whatever else, you drink the occasional Mountain Dew or Coca-Cola, you put sugar in your coffee, you might become pre-diabetic, you might get diabetes, okay? If you're not genetically predispositioned to get it, maybe you don't get it until you're older. But if you think about it, and while you're younger, you minimize it. You minimize it. Choose the non-sugar drink to drink. No sugar added. Don't always eat the cakes and cookies and ice cream and all that kind of stuff, because the chocolate, the candy bars, it adds up over time. Minimize your chances, because once you get diabetes, if you're pre-diabetic, you might be able to turn it back. Once you cross that line and get diabetes, odds are you're not going to be able to turn it back. Okay? So don't do it. Something else to think about. I've looked at the elderly population because I'm progressing towards there. I see a lot of people as they get older, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, they get stooped. They get bent over. I've researched this a bit. You have loss of bone density as you age. They do bone density test where they measure your T-score and your Z-score. Your T-score will give you a number related to the average 30-year-old, because normally you get it when you're older. So it's related to the average 30-year-old, and it talks about the loss of bone density. Because when someone's 25, 30 years old, they're normally at peak bone density. As we get older, our bone density, we always lose bone density, but our bodies can rebuild it. But at some point, as we get older, we may lose it faster than it's getting rebuilt, so it starts getting less dense, which could lead to increased fractures. Look around at any older family members or older people you may know. Do you ever hear about somebody when they're older, could be 80s, 90s, they fall and they fracture a hip, they fracture the collarbone, they fracture something. You know, they do that. So that's bone density. I've looked at a variety of relatives, some uncles who aren't related by blood, by marriage. I got one uncle that's just like back straight up, back. He's like that. He's bent completely over. He's in his 80s now. My dad, he was 6'1". He was taller than me. He's now shorter than me. He's pushing 80. He's getting shorter. My grandfather, all four of my grandparents died in their 90s, between 91 and 93 years of age. So they all have longevity. Okay. My one grandfather that I'm thinking of, he was in probably his early 80s when he slipped off the bottom step of a ladder. Should have been on a ladder in his early 80s, and he fractured his heel. Okay, he was in a boot cast or something for a while. So everyone who gets a little stooped, everyone who gets shorter, everyone who fractures the bone, like their heel when they slip off a ladder, not everyone, but if they're older, there's probably a good chance they have they've lost bone density. Okay, you can get a bone density scan. It's not that expensive. Insurance, I think, will cover it. It's a preventive type thing. But if you know that the majority of Americans get older, they lose bone density, can you or can you not take steps at a younger age to perhaps delay it or prevent it? Yes, you can. You can't change your genetics. There's two things you can change. Your diet, there's a couple things you can change. Your diet, your exercise, and your environment. Okay? Your environment can come into play with a variety of health things. If you're living next to a factory that's emitting smoke and stuff and you're breathing it, you get the increased chance of getting lung cancer, right? Because you're breathing stuff in. If you're smoking pot, you get the increased chance of getting lung cancer. Same for tobacco. But say with bone density, can you take a multivitamin that has calcium in it? Can you perhaps take a calcium supplement or a vitamin D supplement? Majority of Americans, from another thing I read dealing with COVID, say that the majority of people who test positive for COVID, when they take their blood to do a blood test, they're low on vitamin D. So there's a correlation there that if someone's low on vitamin D, these are people that get hospitalized and get tested. If someone's low on vitamin D and they get COVID, they might end up in the hospital. People that have a high vitamin D, they don't find them in the hospital with COVID. There's a correlation there. Why are most Americans low on vitamin D? Why are most Americans getting pre-diabetic and diabetes? Why do most Americans get shorter and get hunched over as they get older? It's our diet, genetics, exercise, environment. We can't change our genetics. We can change our diet. Our diet, I dare say, is more important than exercise. Yes, we need exercise. Yes, we need to walk. Yes, we need to swim. Yes, we need to do some weight-bearing exercises. But our diet, that's inside us. We got to eat correctly. We got to eat correctly so we minimize stomach intestinal problems. We got to eat correctly to minimize esophageal problems. We got to eat correctly so we don't get gastric issues and heartburn and that sort of thing. We got to eat correctly so we don't get polyps, that sort of thing. We got to eat correctly so we get our proper calcium, our proper vitamin C, our proper vitamin D. That's all from what we eat or supplements we might take. If people are taking them when they're older, if you have older family members who start getting something, think about what they're getting. Think about your lifestyle. You're not predestined to get this when you get old just because your mom or your dad did. You're not predestined to get it. You can prevent yourself or minimize the chances that you'll get it by taking proper steps. So as important as it is to look at your financial health, look at your own health. Because why do you want to become a multimillionaire if you're going to be unhealthy by the time you get there? All right. Why do you want to wait till you're 55 or 60 to start investing when by the time you get there, your health is suffering? Start investing when you're young. The younger you are, the better it is. Start investing when you're young, but start taking care of yourself when you're young. Okay? Just start taking care of yourself. I've also done, when I was in college, I did a report on alcohol. Alcohol is a poison. It's a poison. All right? Yet Americans like to drink. All right? You can read study after study after study with people saying a little bit of alcohol is okay. But you'll read those same studies that will say it's so easy once you cross that line of a little bit, like one drink, to drink the second, the third, the fourth, and then you lose any potential health benefits you got from the little bit, and now it gets bad health stuff. It's bad. So knowing that, why do so many young people binge drink? Why do so many old people binge drink? Minimize your chances. Minimize it. There's a push to legalize marijuana around this country. Smoking marijuana increases your chances more than cigarette smoking for causing lung cancer. Why do we want to do this? Right? Why? Take care of yourselves the best you can. All of us that are born, all of you watching this, we're going to die at some point. That's a given. That is the most certain thing in life you can say. Every single baby that's born will die. The goal is to have a good quality of life in those years we get, right? And that death date, watch Manifest on Netflix. They talk about the death date. That death date, we can push it out as far as we can, but it's going to happen. We can't extend it indefinitely. It's not doable. I think the maximum lifespan of a human being right now is 120 years old. So they think. I've read enough studies to say they think they can extend this range perhaps to 150. as time goes on, not right now. As if a baby's born right now and they take all the proper steps of nutrition and exercise and taking care of themselves, but you can't avoid the freak accidents, they maximize their chances of having a longer life than somebody my generation does, or somebody who's 30 might, or someone who's 20 that might. All right? Think about that. I call it the game of life. Life is a game. All right? We're here to learn as much as we can, have a nice, as good of a life as we can while we're here, try to help others while we're here. I'm going to say one last thing, and I'll wrap this video up. It's getting long. I threw something out to my mastermind group today. There's a small percentage of you that watch this video to the end, so I'm going to throw this out to you that do stick around. All right? I told you, always stick around to the end of my videos because you never know what I'll say. Something I'm considering is if I move to the country of Panama, in the next 2 or 3 years, I might try to buy a house somewhere here in the States for this purpose. The purpose is to get a house somewhere where maybe it has a really nice deck, that when you sit on the deck, you got a nice view. It might be over a woods, it might be over a river, it might be over a beach, it might be something. It might be a house near Orlando, near Disney World. Maybe it's a small $65,000 house there, because they do have them. That's in a nice neighborhood. I've stayed in one. It's an HOA type neighborhood. Houses might cost $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. They're there. They're small, they're not fancy, but it's clean. The neighborhood's clean. All right, maybe I get something like that. Maybe I get something in Montana. Maybe I get something in Texas. Maybe I get something in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee or North Carolina. Nag's Head, somewhere, something. And I threw out to my group, if all of us can do this over time, anyone in our group that if we do it or we're progressing towards doing that, if I buy this house, I'm going to furnish it. Maybe I'll rent it on Airbnb or VRBO or something. But at the same time, it's primarily going to be for me and the missus to visit there when we want to stay there, a week or 2 or 3. And anyone in my group, they can contact me and they could stay there if it's open for free. Okay, just they got to clean it and take care of it, but they can stay there for free. If they can do the same thing, because we're all, my mastermind group, we're from all around. If we can all do that somewhere, maybe somebody gets a house in North Carolina, somebody gets it in Montana, someone gets it in California, someone gets it in Texas, someone gets it in Wyoming, someone gets it at Breckenridge, Colorado, someone gets it at Cape May, New Jersey, someone gets something down here in South Florida. We can collectively all share our homes to my mastermind group. If you're a faithful YouTube follower of mine and you want to join in with this potential house sharing, if the day comes where I get the first house, or maybe somebody in my group gets it, I can't speak for anybody in my group if you're not in the group. But if you want to stay in one of my houses for free, if you're a faithful YouTube follower, I will screen you first. I don't let just anyone stay in my properties. I don't know who you are. But I was allowed at one point in time to stay in one of those $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 homes outside of Orlando for free. And it was somebody who worked for the Motley Fool. Like when I worked for the Motley Fool, they didn't know me personally. They screened me from my postings on the Motley Fool, but they didn't know me. We never met. They let me and the missus stay there one time. I'm willing to do the same to you guys, okay? As long as you're a good person. And hopefully, as you progress through your journey of life and you increase your wealth, you pick up a house like that one day and make the return offer, and maybe I take you up on it, maybe I don't. I don't know. I don't know how my future will play out or where I'll go to and where I won't go to. So with that being said, keep loving life. Mazke's signing out.